What is up, guys? In today's video we have another inside the mine style video where I'm going to walk you through my thoughts and decisions as I play in Fortnite Zero build. As always, if you guys do find this video helpful and informative, remember to give a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of the Shockwave hammer nerf, because in this week's update the Shockwave hammer was nerfed, or a few days ago actually. The Shockwave hammer was nerfed to have 3 charges instead of 4, so a pretty minor nerf, but it was a hit to the Shockwave hammer. I know a lot of players would have rather seen the melee aspect of the hammer get nerfed, like maybe do less damage, maybe have less range. You can be like somewhat far from somebody and they can still melee you with the hammer. Or what I think would be a great change would be make the melee attacks consume a charge. I think that would like completely balance the hammer, especially with it only having 3 charges now. People would really have to decide how they're going to use it. Think about it a bit more. We might be screwed here. Yeah, we're dead probably. That's not ideal. I was hoping that I could get the floor loot gun there, but it did not spawn. Because he landed on the chest, and like if you're 50 something, oftentimes the player that just gets a gun is going to win the fight. Like if I had a gun spawn on that floor loot rather than just, I think it was medium ammo and an arrow, he would have been a free kill to me because I would have had a gun while he was still opening chests. And I feel like that is one thing a lot of players struggle with, is like what do you get in those situations when you're like 50-50ing loot with somebody? Like we're both landing on the exact same thing, but I often feel like you want to go for floor loot if you can, unless you have like a very good timing advantage. If you are 50-50ing the same chest as somebody and that's all you can do, the gun always pops out on the right side of the chest. So if you can kind of position yourself to get that, or maybe even block them from seeing the right side of the chest, you usually will get it. Like for example, this chest, the gun would have came out like right there. Also with this game, I'm going to try to use the Shockwave bow. We'll see. But I think that could be interesting because I feel like a lot of people don't really know how good the Shockwave bow can be. I prefer the hammer. We'll maybe get into some of the differences later on in a moment because I have to fight this guy that I hear underneath me. I think both mobility items are good, but with the hammer being nerfed, some of you might not be happy with it anymore. So I'm going to try to use the bow, see if we can get some gameplay with it. It's definitely an interesting item. And it does have some advantages over the hammer. I feel like the hammer is more convenient to use as mobility. And it's definitely better as like a, oh crap, I need to get out of here type weapon. Luckily, we got bow specialist. We'll get to that in a second. But the bow is also really nice because you can like move people around. You have 31 arrows with bow specialist, regenerating you arrows. They both have advantages and disadvantages. I just feel like the hammer is better as like a panic button to get out of a situation. And a lot of the times where you need your mobility to save your life, you really need that mobility, you know? Like if it comes to the point where you need to hammer out of there, like you desperately need it. So I feel like the hammer is a little more convenient to make that happen. But the bow is certainly good as well. And depending on like the more nerfs we see over time, we could end up seeing the bow become the meta. There's just one thing that's really inconvenient about the bow, I think, is the fact that you need a lot of augments to make it good. Because the Shockwave bow itself comes from an augment. Like you can't get it from killing people, but more often than not, you're going to get it from the augment, you know? That is the way to get it. That's within your control. And then you want bow specialist, which makes you pull it back faster. That's going to reduce your use time, which is really nice. And you also regenerate arrows with bow specialist, which is good. And then some people like soaring sprints. I'm not a huge fan of soaring sprints, but like bow plus soaring sprints, you can get around the map incredibly fast. So that's like 2 to 3 augments dedicated to the bow. And so you're missing out on other augments. Like I think Storm Mark is incredibly good. I really like having Pistol Amp. Forecast is nice. Flash Medic is nice. Which, like, the big deal to me isn't necessarily giving up those other augments. It's just that, it's, like, time-consuming and, like, gold-consuming to, like, be, like, rolling through augments trying to get the bow, you know? What a savage. Okay, sweet. So, that guy was frying me with a FAMAS from mid-range. When I killed him, I checked his loot for the FAMAS, the burst rifle. Sometimes people will shoot at you with something and then end up dropping it, but Like, let's say I look at that guy's loot and there's no burst rifle there, and I know I was just getting fried from somebody using the burst rifle. At that point, I can pretty safely assume that there's probably another guy here. It isn't always the case. Sometimes, like I said, people swap loot out. But yeah, that was why I was like very eager to check that guy's loot and see if he had the FAMAS. Because if there was no burst on that loot, I would have been somewhat sure that there's another guy here. Okay, sweet. We ended up getting the bow and bow specialist pretty conveniently, which is really nice. But earlier this week, when the Shockwave hammer was vaulted on Monday, they like had to vault it temporarily to fix a bug. I guess it would have been last week as the time you guys are seeing this. I record these videos on Sundays. That's why I don't stream on Sundays. But yeah, I was streaming on Monday, trying to get the Shockwave bow every game because obviously with no hammer in the game, the Shockwave bow is pretty much the only like top tier mobility item in the game. And I went through like 3,000 to 4,000 gold just in that one day. So we're fortunate this game in that I get Shockwave bow plus bow specialist rather quickly. But yeah, you sometimes can get really unlucky and just not get it for whatever reason. But luckily we got it conveniently this game. That's really nice. Another thing with the bow you really have to be mindful of is like, let's say you're shockwaving onto a fight. You're probably going to swap to your gun right away and start fighting people. But if you don't draw another arrow before you swap to your weapons, you'll have to do that like this before you're able to use it again. And that can really matter. So if you are using the bow, try to be mindful of that. Thought I heard a guy under me. W hollow chest. Actually, I don't even need that pump. I already have one. I'm stupid. People fighting over here. I would like to get involved. I don't even know where they are. That's a rift event, I think. And I feel like that is the main value of the bow right there. Being able to decide somebody is not where they want to be and having it cost pretty much nothing to you because, as you see, I'm already full arrows again. I messed it up the first time. But, yeah, in zero build especially, just being able to decide, hey, you're not at that cover you want to be or you're not in that bush you want to be or whatever is just incredibly valuable, especially if you already have opening tags. Like, let's say there's a person running up this way. We tag them. They get to that tree. We easily just arrow the tree. They're not where they want to be anymore. They're probably out in the open. And even if they aren't necessarily in a terrible circumstance, just forcing your opponent to respond to things that they're not prepared for is really problematic. And in team game modes, I think that is like, it's super valuable. I think it's definitely worth having somebody carry the Shockwave bow in your team. Not only do you have higher chance of getting it because, you know, early game, there's 4 different augments that everyone gets. Even if you're not the person that likes using the bow, you can like get it and then drop it for your teammate. Hammers are harder to come by in team game modes, or at least like having a hammer for everybody, you know? You need to find 4 rather than just 1. And then also, like, just making a team split like that with the bow is really nice. Like, if you have people grouped up and you arrow them, they're probably just going to all go, like, completely different directions. But forcing your opponents to respond to, like, weird scenarios is nice. Kind of like, I made a video recently on the NPCs in Fortnite, and I don't really care for them. I don't think they're worth hiring, but there were some people that commented, like, just making the situation chaotic and weird for your opponent has value. And I do agree with that. It's just, as far as the NPCs go, not the biggest deal, I think, but I agree with that logic, that point of view. And the Shockwave bow is, like, does that very well. Especially in-game. Like, a lot of in-game, I feel like we've all had these in-games in zero build where just, like, kind of nothing is happening and everybody's just waiting for something to happen. But if you start shooting people, you just get third-partied. The bow can be really nice in those scenarios. Kind of those stalemate-y situations where just nothing is happening. Just deciding somebody's out in the middle of a field is really bad for them. Or not behind their cover or whatever. If I had soaring sprints right now, we'd be getting around the map much faster, but not the biggest deal to me. But I don't know. I really just don't like the soaring sprint 0 gravity jump. If it only worked when I use the bow, I wouldn't mind it. But just like when I'm walking around sprint jumping, I'm just not a fan personally. This guy's probably irritated. It's like hard to get it where I need it to be over there. Because there is like some amount of drop to the arrows. W. That guy is probably so annoyed, man. Full beamed them from like a mile away. We could get soaring sprints, but I'm not the biggest fan. Let's get this. I want to see. I don't think this will be the case, but I wonder if like hitting them with the shockwave effect of the bow will trigger Bloodhound, because it's when you hit them with a bow. I think I need to direct impact them with it. That would make sense. But if just like the shockwave effect alone triggers that, that'd be insane. People fighting up here. I don't know if I want to push into this because it kind of stinks like pushing up this mountain. But I want the kills. I do like to get in a good amount of fights for these videos. This is the second game I've tried to record of this today. The first game was just kind of body. I think he's in there. Oh my gosh. That was not what I was hoping for. Kind of choked my shots there. That kind of goes to show what I was saying though. Like creating a situation where your opponent is just responding to something they're not prepared for is really awkward for them typically. Because that fight was just a huge 50-50. I choked shots. But he had the much better weapon for that. He had the Maven. I think like the Maven is much better for that just like awkward shotgun fight where we're basically touching each other. I think I just heard somebody in this bush. I definitely heard somebody in a bush. Yep. Just the trees kind of griefed. These trees have the biggest hitbox ever. This guy has one more hammer use, I think. If that, because I think he used his hammer to get into zone. Okay, now he's on full cooldown. That is one thing you kind of got to reacclimate yourself to with the hammer nerf is like how many uses people have. If you hear someone hammer 3 times, you know they don't have any more uses and you can like play accordingly unless they have multiple hammers, which is a thing people do sometimes, but you know, that gives them a disadvantage in other ways. Or they have the mythic, which has 5 uses. The Bloodhound thing was kind of useful there though. I shot him out of that bush. I probably should have just AR'd the bush, but I wanted to use the bow. But it would have mattered just to AR that bush because I was pretty sure he was in it. Like I definitely heard someone in the leaves. I just wasn't sure which one it was. Shockwaving bushes can be weird. You can't do it and it's nice to track them, but it's just like it doesn't... I feel like if you hit a bush directly, it doesn't always shockwave the person out. Like they have to be within the radius of it. It was kind of like when you shockwave bushes before, but I feel like the shockwave bow doesn't have as big of effect as the grenades. I'm not sure if that's true, but this is what it feels like to me. Nice, easy kill. That is like a fight I feel like a lot of people would struggle with. So that guy has first shot on me. It's kind of a 50-50. Like neither of us have great positioning, but I feel like it's probably in his favor because he has the high ground. He can kind of play this hill. So I just immediately got to the tree. Like I didn't participate in that fight. That is not what I wanted to do. But I feel like it was worth taking a bit of extra damage at the start of the fight to get behind the tree and actually have cover. Especially with this this pump. If you have right shoulder peek with this pump, you can just dish out damage so quickly. I know if this guy knows that I see him. My gosh, man. Took so much more damage than I needed to. I shouldn't have used the red eye after I shockwaved him. I should have just been on the pistol. That was bad. I didn't think he would get that close to me. Beamed the crap out of him though with the AR. The first time when he was like on the hill. It's 1v1. Last guy's over there somewhere. We do have Storm Mark. Like, obviously, ideally, I would prefer the hammer, like I said before, but we're using the bow for this game. That's why I just left the mythic there before there's, like, 8 comments of me like, oh my god, you left the mythic at this time, Tim. I know. I'm trying to show off the bow for this game. Once again, another fight where the bow just decides that player isn't where he wants to be. I think I just heard the thing go off over here. The capture point. I mean, we would have seen him off Storm Mark anyways, but yeah. Oh no, he's got an RPG. GG's. Another situation, we're just moving the opponent with the bow is super nice. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. Not the most kills, but it was better than the other game. Like I said, I've been asked before, like, how many times it takes me to record these videos. Usually if I want to get a win, I'm able to for this video, but like sometimes, especially like the first game on I play for the day, it's so free. Like I think the game before this, I ended up also using the bow and kind of talking about similar things with like 18 kills. But it just wasn't very good players, I feel like. I feel like this game was a little bit better. And kind of showed off the bow a little better, I think. I think the bow is very good. It's just kind of like, which do you prefer? I feel like the bow has more utility than the hammer in terms of like how you can move people around the map. And that's super effective in zero build. Whereas the hammer is just a better panic button for mobility. And I feel like there's definitely value in having that because, you know, there's a lot of situations where weird things can happen in this gameplay. But let me know what you think of the hammer nerf. Let me know what you would like to see them change with the hammer. I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. Give it a like, subscribe if you did, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.